Now I know that you're used to us talking wrestling on Boom Broadcasting, talking the NBA, talking Major League Baseball. I talk the WNBA. Sometimes we talk TV and movies with my man Sean Lucas. We talk about a barrage of sports here on Boom Broadcasting. We all have our sports that we like. But if you ask all of us here to do shows, if there's a sport that brings us together, that sport is football. And y'all, we are 4 days until college football kicks off. It's back on your TV. I cannot wait. I'll be talking about the top 25 on this episode, giving y'all a little rundown on how they did last year. Talking about what we can expect this year. I got questions for all 25 of those teams on this podcast here that we call Quick Hits. If you're new to this show, what's good? I'm Shannon. I'm a fan of sport. And on Tuesdays, I hit you with my Fan of Sport Tuesday. These Fan of Sports Tuesdays for the next few months are going to be about football. And we starting it off with some college football. Let's hit this theme music and let's get it started.
Can't fall off, now they holler he'll turn, thinking I'ma sell out, talking just to feel heard. I never listen, although they say it's strictly.
Now let's get started with these 25 teams. We'll start with number 25. What I'll do is introduce the team, talk about how they did last year, who coached the team, and I've got my question for all of these teams. Got one question per team. So let's go ahead and start with our number 25 team in the nation, and that is the Boise State Broncos. The Blue Turf, coached by Spencer Danielson, 12-2 in the Mountain West Conference last year and won the championship. Now, going into this season, this will be the last season that the Boise State Broncos will be in the Mountain West. They will be moving on to the Pac-12. Joining that conference there. So they're the only Mountain West team that is ranked. So they're it out of all their Mountain West teams. They're the one. So the question that I have for this squad is, will this be the breakout year for Maddox Madsen? Now, Maddox Madsen, he's in his redshirt junior year. He's listed on the preseason list for the Davy O'Brien, for the Manning Trophy, and also for the Maxwell Trophy. It's preseason. It's early. They have about 27, 28 players on each list. Of course, they got to pilfer through as the season goes. That's what they're going to do. But Maddox threw for 3,000 yards, over 3,000 yards, and 23 touchdowns last year. But he did that with a very stingy defense and the best running back in the nation. Y'all know that guy, Ashton Jeanty. He was there last year, record-breaking year for him, and replacing that young man is going to be tough. But Maddox Madsen, he's got some shoes to fill in his redshirt junior year, and we'll see how that goes as Boise State goes through their season. Then we go to number 24. Of course, we got an SEC squad in here early, and that is the Tennessee Volunteers. Good old Rocky Top, coached by Josh Heupel. They lost to the eventual national champions, Ohio State. They went 10-3 on the year. And the question that I have for Tennessee is, who's playing quarterback for y'all this year? Now, of course, Nico, their quarterback, going to UCLA, decided he wanted to go home, wanted to go back to California. All the stuff that he was asking for with Tennessee, and Tennessee flat out told him no. He goes and transfers. He's gone on to UCLA. And now Tennessee's got to figure out who's playing quarterback. Now, Joey Aguilar, of course, my Western North Carolina friends know him very, very well. On up to Watauga County in a little place called Boone, North Carolina, where Appalachian State plays in the Sun Belt Conference. They know about Joey Aguilar. My man Carson Williams, co-host of Hoops and Helmets, that's where he goes to school. Aaron Schneider, his co-host. And then Michael Davis, that's his alma mater. They know about Joey Aguilar. He journeyed a little bit, went to UCLA last year. And now he's back home in the Southeast, playing for the Tennessee Volunteers. Now, Joey Aguilar might not be as seasoned, but the two guys behind him, he's more seasoned than they are. So the quarterback room in Tennessee, got to talk about it. Got to see how that's going to go later on in the year. And that is the Tennessee Volunteers at number 24. Number 23, coming out of the Big 12, we've got the Texas Tech Red Raiders, coached by Joey McGuire, 8-5 on the year. They're the projected number 5 team in the Big 12, and also happy 100 years of playing football in Lubbock, Texas, for the Texas Red Raiders. So the question that I have for them, not really football related, but are the fans really going to continue to throw the tortillas out there? Are y'all going to do that this year? I know that the ADs in the Big 12, 15-1 vote said, no, you can't do it. And I know the one probably came from Texas Tech. But y'all still going to do it? Because they said we'll warn you twice. But that third time, there's going to be some repercussions. Now, I asked this question because, you know, with the way college football is changing with NIL and things of that nature, there's going to be people that's going to be rubbed the wrong way about taking away different customs and different things that colleges do now that the money's involved and things of that nature. So this might be another thing to take away the fun and the rivalry and the quirkiness of college football. You know, there are kids. They are kids still. So, hey, let the kids do their thing. And that's Texas Tech. Now, one thing about Texas Tech football-wise, they did their thing in the transfer portal this year. They brought in some new guys. So it's going to be a new-look squad, but they've got a little bit of the old in there. So Texas coming to play in the Big 12. And we're going to stay in the Big 12 for team number 22, and that's the Iowa State Cyclones. They were the runner-up to the Big 12 last year, coached by Matt Campbell. Went 11-3 last year. Pretty good season. Couldn't get that championship in the Big 12, but they played some good football. They got the win in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Surprising win, might I add, against the Miami Hurricanes, who we will be talking about later. So the question for Iowa State is, can you get the Big 12 back? Can that happen? Iowa State last year had the Big 12 pretty much wrapped up, but when it came down to it, it came down to them. Colorado came down to Arizona State. It was a battle, but dominoes fell. Arizona State, who was the team that was picked last to win the Big 12, ended up winning it over Iowa State. Now, they were on that hot streak. They got those 2 losses. The momentum fell off for Iowa State. Can they get the Big 12 back? Time is running out. They got a good squad. They've got a very good offense, a returning quarterback this year. They've got to get the momentum back in their favor. That is Iowa State. And then we go back to the SEC with team number 21, and that is the Ole Miss Rebels. Hotty Toddy, coached by Lane Kiffin. Now, I'm happy about Ole Miss. Like them pretty well because they blasted Duke 52-20 in the Gator Bowl. But Ole Miss finished 12-3 last year, which was kind of a short mark for them. So the question I have for Ole Miss is, will this be another almost there year for you? Yes, 10 games were won by Ole Miss last year. And the year before that, and the year before that, and the year before that. It's been about 4 years, I believe. I think it's been 3 or 4 years, 10 win seasons. But they had bad losses last year. They had a bad loss to Kentucky. Shouldn't have been done. Then losing to LSU in overtime at Death Valley. Then Florida losing at the Swamp. Knocked them out of contention for the college football playoff and for the SEC championship. That was rough for Ole Miss. They're a good squad. Replacing a quarterback like Jackson Dart is going to be tough, but it can be done. So Ole Miss at 21. We go to number 20, a team I'm really going to be watching this year, and that's the Indiana Hoosiers, coached by Kurt Daddy Cincinnati 11-2 record. Lost in the first round to the eventual national runner-up, Notre Dame. Question for Indiana. Was last year a fluke? 11-2 on the year with a great passing game. And they're going to be returning some guys to that passing game, which is going to be great. They'll have to replace Curtis Rourke at quarterback. But they've got the potential to do it. They got the receivers to do it. A great downhill passing game. Looking forward to seeing that. It's going to look good this season. Will it look good in the favor of the Indiana Hoosiers? We will see. At number 20, representing the Big Ten, the Indiana Hoosiers, we go to 19. This is a team I kind of have a question about this year, and that is the Texas A&M Aggies, coached by Mike Elko, former Duke coach. Came over and coached the team last year, finished with an 8-5 record, and lost to Southern Cal in the Las Vegas Bowl. The question for you guys is, whose party will you crash this year? 3 top 10 schools on the schedule this year makes that shut up and win mantra look very, very tough for Texas A&M. One of those teams, of course, is the number 1 team in the nation, and we'll get to them very, very soon. So Texas, you going to crash the party this year? We going to see. Going to 18 now, staying in the SEC yet again. Oklahoma Sooners, Boomer Sooners. Shout out to Jim Ross, longtime wrestling commentator, one of the voices of my childhood. They're coached by one of my favorite names to say of all college coaches, Brent Venables. Now, they had a 6-7 year last year. They lost to the Naval Academy in the Armed Forces Bowl. Now, speaking of Brent Venables, that's the question. Is he coaching for his job? 22-17 head coaching record. He's coached as the head coach for 4 years at Oklahoma. 22-17 head coaching record. 12-14 in conference play. Remember, he played 2 years in the Big 12. He's going to play his second year in the SEC this year. This is year 4 for him. 0-3 in bowl games, 1 winning season. 7 top 25 teams on the schedule for this year. Now, this is what happens when you upset Alabama. Repercussions right here. That's a joke. But the Oklahoma Sooners at 18, we go to 17. The Kansas State Wildcats coming out of the Big 12. We're going to go to Manhattan, Kansas. Now, they're coached by Chris Kleeman, 9-4 record, and they won the Rate Bowl last year. So can Kansas State surprise the Big 12? That's the question. Playing Iowa State early and Texas Tech later, Kansas State could be in the best position to play for the Big 12 title. I like Avery Johnson, the quarterback, very good young player. Had a good game against Kansas last year. They played very, very tough in that Big 12. So we're going to see. And then we're going to hit it to number 16. We finally get to the ACC. And that's going to be the SMU Mustangs, coached by Rhett Lashley. 11-3 record. Runner-up for the ACC title. They end up losing to Penn State in round 1 of the college football playoff. They had a very surprising year in their first year in the ACC. So the question for SMU, will you have a sophomore slump? And what I mean is that aside from the close games against Louisville and Duke, SMU didn't have trouble in conference play last year. But this year, they've got to see Clemson and they got to see Miami, teams they didn't see last year. So let the games begin. And with that being said, we're going to go to a commercial. We're going to have our little commercial break here. Then we'll be back with 15 and 1. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and get 15 through 1 right now. Starting with number 15, out of the SEC yet again, we've got the Florida Gators, coached by Billy Napier. 8-5 record last year. They won the Gasparilla Bowl against Tulane. 33-8 was the score. Tulane had a few players they didn't play, but it didn't matter. Florida came to play, and they did very, very well. And the question I have for them is momentum. Still on the side of the Florida Gators. They were 4-0 to end the season. That was including the bowl win against Tulane. They had some key wins against LSU and Ole Miss. Now, will that streak be enough to power them through 3 top 10s? In 5 weeks, Florida going to be put to the test at number 15 out of the SEC, Gainesville, Florida. Those Florida Gators. And then we go to 14. This one had me scratching my head at number 14 of why they were there, and that is the Michigan Wolverines, coached by Sharon Moore. They were 8-4 last year, won the Relay Quest Bowl against Alabama, a surprise win. Didn't expect to see Michigan beat Alabama, but it did happen. The question that I have for Michigan here is, can they mess this up? Looking at their schedule for this year, they have only one ranked opponent that they see in conference play, and that is Ohio State at the tail end of the year. Of course, Michigan has found a way to beat Ohio State the past 5 seasons. They have a very generous schedule this year as opposed to 4 ranked opponents in conference play last year. So this is going to be a year that Michigan might be able to go for that Big Ten championship. Of course, they've got the legal troubles. They had the legal troubles, Jim Harbaugh, Connor Stallions. The show calls 10 years for Jim Harbaugh, and I think it was 8 years for Connor Stallions, something like that. But, Michigan caught in a little bit of a crossfire for the sign stealing over the past couple of years. But this time around, they got to go out there and play some football this year. At number 14, the Michigan Wolverines representing the Big Ten. And then we go to number 13, a surprise team last year, and that was the South Carolina Gamecocks. Shout out to my man Ryan Frick, who used to do the Cat Cave with me. He's doing his stand-up comedy right now. But South Carolina, that's his alma mater. That's his favorite squad. He's looking forward to the season. I know he is. But the Gamecocks, coached by Shane Beamer, out of the SEC, 9-4 record last year. They lost in the Citrus Bowl. That was a tough loss there. They had some momentum. The question for the Gamecocks is, are you battle-tested? Winning 6 of the last 7 games, ending the season, hopefully prepared them for the gauntlet that awaits them in the last 2 months of the regular season. 6 of 7 teams will be ranked that they will be up against. Let's see if Lenore Sellers, a player that I'm really liking at the quarterback position, see what he does for this year with the Gamecocks at number 13 in the nation. Number 12, we're going back to the Big Ten with the Illinois Fighting Illini, coached by Brett Bielema. I like him. I like Brett Bielema. Doing some great things over in Champaign. 10-3 record, beating South Carolina in the Citrus Bowl, who we just spoke on. The question for them is, can Illinois keep their eyes on what's in front of them? Now, the thing with Illinois is this is the highest preseason ranking they've had since 1990. A tough Duke team awaits them, and I hate to give Duke any type of credit, but Duke can play party crash this year. They're a tough squad out of that ACC. They can play party crash to Illinois. Indiana, their rival, they play them early. And Southern Cal on down the road could trip the Fighting Illini before they see Ohio State later on in the season. The Fighting Illini will be a fun team to watch this year. That Big Ten football, after the makeover that they had last year, they've got some teams in there that are going to be playing. So I look forward to seeing the Fighting Illini and see what they've got going on. And number 11, the Arizona State Sun Devils. Shout out to my man Malvin off with Mike. That is his alma mater. Coached by Kenny Dillingham, representing the Big 12, 11-3 last year. Had one of the most explosive college football players in Cam Scatterbo, who's in the NFL right now with the New York Giants. Won the conference championship, but they lost in a 2-overtime thriller in the quarterfinal of the college football playoffs. My question to you, Arizona State, is, are you still nothing? That was what Malvin Alpha Mike said. They told us we were nothing, but are you still nothing? With Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson, a player that I enjoy at the receiver spot, returning along with other starters on both sides of the ball, Arizona State could repeat. They've got two choices, go up or go down. But it looks like it could be a repeat for them for the Big 12 championship. Now we're getting into the 10. We're in the top 10 right now. Let's go to the ACC. Miami-Dade County. The Miami Hurricanes, coached by Mario Cristobal. In the ACC, they were 10-3 last year. The 1-point loss to Iowa State in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, 42-41, was that final score. Question for you, Miami. And yes, I am a Tar Heel fan, so my Tar Heels may be seeing you this season. I got to look at the schedule a little bit. But can Miami seal the deal? Last year, you had the ACC title. You had the title game there on a silver platter last season. Lost to Georgia Tech. Lost later on, I believe it was Syracuse that beat them out. Took them out of the game, put SMU in that spot. With strength on both sides of the ball this year, could be a lot better. I'm looking to see that to be the match that we should have had last year could happen this year. Miami predicated on defense. They fixed their secondary up. The turnover chain. That's a big thing for Miami. So yes, Miami at number 10 out of the ACC. We're going into number 9. LSU, the Tigers, the Bayou Bengals, coached by Brian Kelly, 9-4 last year, beating Baylor in the Texas Bowl. Up and down season for them. They were up and then they later went down. The question is, will being tested early help or hurt LSU? Last year, they played Southern Cal, lost that game, went on a streak, and then later on, they ended up having 2 bad losses later on, and then another bad loss ensued. After a week 1 loss, LSU gained momentum. Of course, you heard that. But Garrett Nussmeier, looking forward to playing this year. They look more confident, so LSU could surprise Clemson in the Battle of Death Valleys. I'm looking forward to that one. That's going to be game 1 for LSU and for Clemson. We'll be talking about Clemson later. We're going into number 8. The Alabama Crimson Tide out of the SEC, coached by Kalen DeBoer, second-year coach for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Question, more or less, for the fans of Alabama, is will y'all give Kalen DeBoer some grace? Being the successor to Nick Saban is tough. One of the best to coach college football. But he signed up for it. I get it. It's even tougher after losing to Tennessee, Oklahoma, Michigan in a bowl game that is not the national championship, and of course, to Vanderbilt. Big old black eye for the Alabama Crimson Tide. I see a bounce back year for them. Alabama at number 8. Number 7, the Oregon Ducks. Quack, quack. Out of the Big Ten, coached by Dan Lanning. 13-1 Big Ten champs last year. Lost in the quarterfinal to Ohio State in a blowout fashion. Question for Oregon. Are you your own worst enemy? Penn State holds Oregon's chances of a repeat for the Big Ten title in their hands. A gracious schedule could trip Oregon up. I doubt it, though, but it could. The Oregon Ducks at number 7. Going into number 6, your reigning national runner-ups, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, coached by a guy that I really like, Marcus Freeman. They were 14-2. That's hard for me to say. I'm not really a Notre Dame fan, never really liked him, but I like Marcus Freeman a lot. Great coach. The question for the Fighting Irish is, can you be the early bird? Miami and Texas A&M could crash the party for Notre Dame. Someone tell that new quarterback about the boneyard. If you know, you know. Number 5. We're in that 5 right now. This 5 is going to be tough, man. I'm looking forward to talking about these 5 here, but we're in the top 5, and we're going to go with Georgia. The Georgia Bulldogs, coached by Kirby Smart, 11-3 last year. The quarterfinal exit to Notre Dame, the national runner-up. Question for Georgia, or question mainly about Georgia is it easy to overlook how good Kirby Smart is as a head coach? He proved yet again why he is one of the best coaches in all of college football. Texas couldn't steal the SEC title from him, and although Georgia didn't get to the title game, I get it. He coached through some tough games. You imagine going 8 overtimes with your rival and see what happens. That was tough, but he got through it. Gunnar Stockton may not be your typical quarterback, but you best believe that Kirby Smart will use him, and he knows what he is doing. Could be a 2-quarterback system in Georgia. Could be. But we're going to see with Georgia out of the SEC at number 5. We go into number 4. Clemson, the Tigers. ACC representing. Coached by one of the best and finest coaches in college football in Dabo Swinney. 10-4 first round exit to Texas in the college football playoff. Question for Clemson. Will we get the match that we wanted in the ACC? The one we wanted last year. Will we get it this year? And that's Clemson and Miami. They should have been last year. That was the dream match for the ACC title. This year, it could happen. They lost to the rival last year, so they got some bad blood for South Carolina. That's going to be interesting again this year. They had the most experienced roster in all of the nation. And again, I'm looking forward to the battle of Death Valleys. But we could see Clemson in that college football championship. We go into number 3, the Ohio State Buckeyes, coached by Ryan Day for now. 14-2 reigning national champions. And that's the question. How many times can Ryan Day's job be threatened? That's a joke, but after 5 straight losses to Michigan, and last year definitely shouldn't have happened, is it really a joke? But in spite of that, Ohio State, they're going to contend for the Big Ten. They're going to contend for the national championship. Texas will be the judge of that. Then Ryan Day's job can get threatened all they want to after that. Number 3, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We go into number 2, and that's the Penn State Nittany Lions out of the Big Ten yet again, coached by James Franklin, 13-3 last year. They unfortunately lost by 3 to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in the college football Final Four. Penn State is out for blood this year. They spent money after losing the Big Ten, after losing that title game, after not getting to the national championship. They went and spent money, opened the purse up. They got their quarterback back. They spent money on their defensive coordinator. They took him from Ohio State. So that's going to be interesting seeing that happening with Penn State. This is going to be tough. That Big Ten, that's going to be a fight. So I look forward to it as well. And of course, the number 1 team out of the SEC is the Texas Longhorns, coached by Steve Sarkisian. 12-3 record, loss in the college football Final Four to the eventual national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. Y'all, it was only a matter of time. Arch Manning is here. Now he's going to get tested early. Ohio State's up first. Florida Oklahoma, Georgia, Texas A&M. And Texas is loaded on defense. Y'all, I cannot wait for college football to begin. This is going to be dope. Looking forward to it. The first game is going to be on the 23rd. Then we're going to get into a lot of it next week. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of next week. Going to be a lot of games. Keep it locked here. We're going to be talking about it here on Boom Broadcasting. I'll see you back on Friday with the WNBA. As always, see you in the next one. I'm Shannon Smith, and this is Quick Hits.